Really enjoyed this study in Philippians, this 5 years from now. We're getting towards the end of it, and we're getting closer and closer to August 9th, where we will start having Sunday school on campus. But I want to get into the questions that of this week, kind of in this third week, of Philippians 2:3-4 and Philippians 3:12-14. So kind of the big idea we were talking about is sanctification is a process that goes through all seasons of life. It goes through the seasons of life that are hard, the seasons of life that are difficult, the seasons of life that are easy, the seasons of life where we are selfish, the seasons of life where we are just committed to everyone else except ourselves. And so this process of growing closer to God is something that takes every single day effort towards loving and worshiping the Lord. And so if you do have your Bibles, we are going to be in Philippians 2:3-4 and Philippians 3:12-14. I'm not going to read them today because we read them on Sunday and that was part of the message. I just want to get right into the question. So first question is, what is one thing that stood out from you this week's message? So something that stood out for me in this week's message, because we have two different passages. In Philippians 2:3-4, I thought something was pretty fascinating when it says, do nothing from selfish mind, having the same, I need to pull this Bible closer to me because I cannot see it. It says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. The thing that stood out to me most in this passage is that Paul is writing these letters from a jail cell, and he's telling people not to be conceited, not to think about themselves, not to be focused on what's going. And so we have to lay the circumstances of Paul writing this letter on top of the words he's writing, because the whole book of Philippians is talking about, as Christians, we are living a countercultural life. So the way culture says is normal, we are living abnormal to that. And part of this is understanding that part of sanctification is that when we feel the need, desire, the want to be conceited and selfish and think about ourselves, that we are called to think above. And it even goes beyond in chapter 3, verses 12-14, that we're running this race. And we can't get tripped up by these small, selfish desires and these small selfish things. And so question number 2, what is more important, speed or endurance? I mentioned on Sunday, 12-14 talks about running a race. It talks about continuing on. It talks about striving for the Lord every single day. And I've started running. I've tried to run almost every day of the week the last 3 weeks. And something I'm working on is my endurance. I'm okay at running a little quickly for a second, but I'm not okay with keeping any kind of pace. When I run, I pick someone out and I run past them, and then I just kind of barely walk, and then they pass me and I run past them again. And this is not the way we're supposed to live our Christian life. It's not supposed to be a start and a stop. It's not supposed to be I'm living for the Lord, I'm living for the Lord, and I'm living for the world now. No. We are called for endurance, that we are called to run the race well, that every day of our life, that we wake up and we continue to serve the Lord more. I like athletic culture. I like people who play sports. I like the Olympics. And something that you see on a lot of t-shirts and people who play like volleyball or basketball, it says no off days, talking about how everything you do is dedicated towards that sport. And I took a wrestling class in high school. Yes, you can laugh at that, but I took a wrestling class in high school. One of the hardest classes I had to take in college. Or no, not high school, college. One of the hardest classes I had to take in college is this wrestling class. And something the professor the professor of wrestling, something the professor talked about in this class is that if you were a wrestler, everything you do is about wrestling. That the way you eat your food, you're doing it to gain or lose weight for wrestling. The way you played other sports was to gain muscle for wrestling. The way you slept, the way you watched TV, you did exercises while you're watching TV. That everything centered around what it means to be a better wrestler. And that's how our Christian life should be, is that every day should center around how we can be better and grow closer to the Lord. Because question number 3, can you relate to sanctification being a process like a marathon? And I think I can relate to this because the whole series is called 5 years from now. And the goal is that 5 years from now, our Christian life looks more like Christ than it does today. And I think the part of sanctification being like a marathon is one of those things where if I decided I'm going to be the greatest Christian in the world and I'm going to be the most amazing Christian in the world, and I'm like, boom, it's going to happen right now. And then I make a mistake or I trip up, and then if that's kind of what I think and I don't realize that every day has its challenges and every day has to be a process, then I'll just get discouraged. The same way in a marathon, that if you like sprinted out of the gate and ran as fast as you possibly could, then you're going to be gassed at the end because you didn't understand what it means to continually run. There's a movie called McFarlane USA. I strongly suggest it. I can't say much about it because I don't want to spoil it. But in that movie, it's a running movie where it talks about pacing yourself and remembering the finish line. And the same way that our finish line is that day when we're standing in front of Jesus Christ. And so we have to see our Christian life as a marathon where every single day we are living for the Lord. And if we do trip up and we do make a mistake, standing back up and keep running. I talked about it on Sunday where there was an Olympic runner who in the marathon fell down, stood up, and got his time back and won the marathon. And it's one of those things that as Christians that you might trip up or do this or have these selfish ambitions, or even when we flip over to 12 and 13 where it talks about this idea of not being perfect, obviously, but striving for perfection. And Paul talks about that. I haven't obtained perfection, but that doesn't keep me from trying. And the same way in our race is that if we see it as a marathon and we see it as every single day getting closer and closer to the Lord, then it can change our perspective of life. Because question number 4, how do you feel when you don't see the fruit of the Christian walk reflected in your life? So how do you feel when you don't see the fruit of the Christian walk reflected in your life? And I think this kind of goes back to the last question. I think if we think, okay, I need to sprint, I need to do everything I can, I need to do so good, and you do need to do that. But when you put so much ambition on results and saying, this is what I need to see, a lot of times we realize that we're focused on ourselves then. We're saying, I want to see results because I want to see that I'm doing better. There's a lot of I's in those statements. That the same way in a marathon, we have to understand that we can't get down and beat ourselves up when we make one mistake. That doesn't mean you don't ask God for forgiveness of that sin. That doesn't mean you ignore sin. But you understand that every single day you're growing closer to Him. Because how do you feel when you don't see the fruit of the Christian walk reflected in your life? A lot of times you can be discouraged, but you have to understand that this is a process. And getting discouraged usually means we're focused more on us trying to achieve something rather than giving over to God. Because sovereign God, sovereign ruler of all that is here, is with us. And He is slowly wanting us to build up and grow in Him. And just like Paul says, striving for perfection. And yes, you will make a mistake here or there, but that should not stop you, because if it stops you, that means your power wasn't found in the Lord. Your power was in you trying to do the right thing. So continually, every day, striving to live in love for the Lord. Question number 5, how can God continue to sanctify us in our relationships? So I think God can continue to sanctify us in our relationships because our relationships can grow more like His relationship with us, where we are loving and we are caring and we are thinking about the needs of others more than the needs of ourselves. And that's all of what chapter 2, verses 3 through 4, what Brad even talked about last Wednesday. This Wednesday at 6 o'clock, you should watch Brad's live stream. It's going to be fantastic. But it's the same thing that Brad was talking about, is that we spend so much time focused on ourselves, where Paul and the life of Christ shows that we should think about others. So God can sanctify our relationships by conforming and growing us to be closer to who He is. And I think that's what it is when you struggle to think about others, realizing that you need to get into the Word and get into prayer and realize that loving God means loving His people and loving the people He created. And so the example I always go back to is when Jesus fed the 5,000, where He had been ministering all day and everyone's exhausted, and He looked up and saw people were hungry. And He took that time to look up from His own ministry to see what other people were doing and to see the needs of others. And in the same way, we have to emulate that as well, where we look up and say, someone else needs something that's more important than me, then any need of someone else should be more important than your own. That doesn't mean you don't take care of yourself, but that means that you love people the way Christ loved us. Last question, how can I pray for you? Reach out, text me, call me, carrier pigeon, send me a painting or smoke signal, I don't care. I would like to pray for you. I want to connect with you. I want to be able to lift you up, because we are a community of believers and we are striving this race together. I was riding my bikes a couple weeks ago, and I ride my bike so much better, or I run so much better when I'm with people. because I'm able to keep that pace and strive together. And I was thinking about that when I was riding my bike with my friend, I'm able to go distances I didn't even know I could go. Because if I'm by myself, I usually stop short. That's kind of how church is that we run this race, this persevere on this process of sanctification together. And so reach out so I can pray and we can stay connected. A couple announcements, and then I'll pray and we'll get out of here. Announcement number uno, this Thursday at 6 o'clock. Everyone say 6 o'clock. Perfect. This Thursday at 6 o'clock, we are having Chick-fil-A night in our fellowship hall. Be there. It's going to be fantastic. Free Chick-fil-A. If you know you're coming, maybe send me a text or a message to, hey, I'm coming, so I make sure we have enough food. You don't have to. I'm going to buy enough food for everyone. So invite your friends. Show up. It's going to be delicious. August 7th and 8th is going to be our summer blast. This is going to be in place of kind of what we would usually do for camp. There's not going to be a sleep over element. You're going to go sleep at your house. It's a Friday night from about 6 to 8:30, 6 to 9. And then you go home and sleep, and you come back the next day, and it's from 9 to 5. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be food. There's going to be shirt that you're going to get. There's going to be just speaking and teaching and fun and games. It's going to be a blast. So join us for our summer blast. Sign-ups have already been emailed out to your parents. If you need to sign up, hit me up and I'll get it to you. I'm sorry this video went so long. I usually try to keep it at 5 minutes. It turns into 7 minutes, and today it turned into 12 minutes. But I hope you have a great Wednesday. I hope you have a great rest of your day. If there's anything you need, reach out. Let's pray and let's get out. Father, I come to you today. Thank you for these men and women. I pray every day we